Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to this episode of This is Simulation. This is our fifth episode in this current series. It's a brand new series brought to you by Sim and Skills, and we're championing the latest innovations in healthcare simulation. If you've missed any of the previous four episodes, you can watch back them at your leisure. We'll pop a link in the chat shortly so that you'll be able to find out how you can watch previous episodes. So I'm Nicola and I'm your host for this series, and I've got the fantastic task of being able to introduce you to our wonderful guests. So each of our speakers in this series works in a different area of healthcare simulation in different job roles, and they're going to share with you the work that they do, practical insights that you can take back to your own organisation, and lots of information about things that you can use as well. Just before we get underway with today's episode, just a few housekeeping things for you. So please use the chat box to say hi to everybody and let us know where you're joining us from. Just make sure the little blue tab at the bottom is switched to everyone, not just hosts and panelists, or it'll just be Joe and myself that gets to see your comment. The weather is cool down wherever you are. Let us know how you're coping in the heat, as well as where you're from. I'm sure today's session will generate lots of questions from attendees today. If you have got a question for Joe, our guest, please put it in the Q&A section. So there's a separate Q&A section, should be at the bottom of your screen. That way we can just keep an eye on the questions coming through and they don't get lost in the chat. So today's session will be recorded, and the recording is going to be emailed out to you later this week. So please feel free to share it with your teams. It will also be available on our website as well, so be able to catch up at a later date. So on to today's episode and today's guest. So I'm very, very pleased to be joined by Joe Davies. Joe is the Head of Simulation Education at SUSIM, the Faculty of Medicine, Health and Life Sciences at Swansea University. And today, Joe is going to be talking to us about the innovative projects that she is doing to sustainably support the growth of a simulation centre. And there's lots of tips that you'll be able to use as well. So welcome to you, Joe. So I guess the first place to start is to talk to us all about your own journey through simulation, and also the journey that SUSIM at Swansea University has been on.
Okay, thank you so much, Nicola. Thank you for the invite from Sims and Skills. That's a great first question. I'm just going to share a few slides, if it's okay, just to contextualise it. I appreciate they'll be very high level because we're going to have a nice chat about sustainability of programmes, but I'll just start by showing a few pictures. Pictures say 1,000 words, don't they? So if you can just bear with me, I'll share my screen. And I'll just pop that. Okay, so Crozo from Wales. So just to answer your first question about the journey, and then I'll talk a little bit about SUSIM. So I'm actually a registered midwife. I've been a midwife since the 1990s, and I'm registered in the UK and Australia. And I've mainly worked on quite busy tertiary labour wards and quite large hospitals. I've actually had an international career because my husband supported and did work with the US military. So I've worked around the globe, and over the last 30 years or 25 years, I've been traveling. And really my journey in simulation has developed initially from being a clinician and working on really busy labour wards in areas such as Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi. I've worked in Brisbane in Australia, in Qatar, and I've done projects in Africa. And I think, you know, as most clinicians, we teach and educate as part of our role. And we started to think a little bit more about doing much more practical learning. We did a lot of in situ learning to start with because we were clinicians in busy centres and we saw the need for it to improve care. So my journey through simulation has been with quite small programmes in situ, leading then to having more and more of an interest in this educational modality and being involved in larger programmes, larger projects in different international countries, and actually designing and building simulation centres. I've also been involved in opening some hospitals, so 2 hospitals. One was quite a large women and children's hospital, and we use simulation for systems testing. And just a disclaimer about the pictures, this is all simulation. There isn't any real patients among these pictures, just to be clear. But it's just meant that it provided an opportunity to understand the real challenges and opportunities that simulation hold, from smaller programs to much larger endeavours. So around about 5 years ago, I moved back to Wales. My husband's family is from Wales, so we moved back to the beautiful Gower. And it was just at the time when, unfortunately, COVID had hit, and I'd worked in Swansea Hospital in between my time at Saudi and Australia, and thought, how can I help? What can I do? And reached out to the university and did some maternity cover, just sort of working alongside a brilliant midwifery team. And it was a little bit of a coincidence because our Associate Executive Dean, Michelle Lee, had been talking to HNIW, and they had a vision for really expanding and increasing simulation at scale. So I had one of those little bit of a Catherine Tate moment where I said, oh, I could help with that, I could do that. And we sort of built a relationship and started to think about SUSIM as a concept. So SUSIM is a multiple site simulation program. We have facilities in our Carmarthenshire site, which is a mainly predominantly nursing school program, but we also have our SUSIM, so Swansea Unisim, Immersive Learning Centre, Simulation and Immersive Learning Centre on our Singleton campus. And this utilises a variety of sim-based methodologies, and it supports our learners, as we all do, with immersion, reflection, development, research and innovation through our real world scenarios. So this is just a picture of where we are on the Singleton campus, and the picture below is our Simulation and Immersive Learning Centre. So this was actually different to my prior projects, which was actually greenfield, brand new sites. This was actually a refurb project of a 1980s, early 90s building. So SUSIM, it has 4 zones with over 2 floors, just to give you some contextualization of how we operationalize the building. It isn't, when I talk about zones, I don't mean sort of the Peter Weinstock modality zones. I'm talking about physical spaces, because we have 2 immersive suites in each zone with side bays to support the flow of large capacity training of our undergraduate and postgraduate learners. We utilise immersive wall technology. So I did listen to wonderful Emily Brown's podcast as well, and I know she loves an immersive wall, so I'm going to invite her up to see the centre. But the immersive walls obviously allow us that hyper flexibility and future proof for mass training and simulation. So across the 2 sites, we have 11 sim suites and 27 sim bays, and I'm also working on a couple of other projects that we'll be supporting. But we have a philosophy of a one program, multiple site, so that all the centres are linked with the technology. And part of that linkage is working with Elevate Healthcare Learning Space, which was actually already installed when I started my full-time position in June 2021, because we have a hub and spoke model. So we've sort of moved the higher tech, or the mid to high tech, and our simulation technologies sit within our centre, but we still have lots of simulation going on in the hub spaces, especially the clinical skills that are so essential for a scaffolded curriculum. And I think it's worth mentioning, because the Swansea University already had Elevate Healthcare, used to be CAE Learning Space, in the university, there was some great simulation and great work already going on. I didn't sort of come in and invent sim for the university. You know, Deborah Rowbury was leading some great work. There was great work in paramedics. And we've just tried to sort of enhance and expand and mainly centralize some of the processes so we could increase and enhance simulation, not reinvent it. I don't want to go into too much detail about our approach, but I wanted to try and show you this just so when we're having sort of the question and answer session, we can link it back and forth a little bit. But our approach, or certainly my approach with the university, was to think about expertise. So I think that different people have different stages, don't they, when they're starting either their programs or their centres or expanding sim, whether you're starting from new or trying to expand. You might be approached about a sim project, or you might be thinking, I really want to do this. I can see a need, I can see a gap, like I did when I was in places like Abu Dhabi. But expertise is really important, because in the end, it can save you a lot of time and a lot of money. And I'm not necessarily talking about paying expensive consultants, although consultancy is a model and it's worked very well. We worked with great experts in the last project that I ran from SSIH, and that really helped us. It really helped to enhance our program, but we had the financial capability to do that. But we have great expertise across the globe, and certainly through our societies, through our industry partners. We're very lucky in Wales. We have a really joined up network. I work closely with the Higher Education Improvement Wales Associate Deans. I've done a lot of work in the past with societies like SSIH, but I've now joined ASPE. We're institutional members of ASPE and now CSAM. So there's so much great expertise out there, and other centres that have done it before. So I had great chats with people like Amanda Wilford in Staffordshire and all the greats that have done it before. I think alignment is really also highly important, and aligning with your core vision and mission, trying to ensure that you're meeting the needs of your organisation can help whatever stage that you're in. I was very lucky. I think in Swansea, it was the first time I hadn't had to sell the ideas. It was the leadership were already highly bought in, and they had that vision themselves. They wanted simulation, but maybe didn't fully have the experience to know the how to do this at scale, and how to really implement it well. So that's where now many people that are starting simulation would then think, oh gosh, I've got to try and sell this. I'm going to try and implement it. And I think health boards are starting to realise that with the simulation programs, because they're not necessarily given money for or as much money as universities for education, they're starting to see the benefits, huge benefits for quality improvement, systems analysis, and now simulation expertise is sort of joining things like boards and quality groups, and the movement is really changing. So I think alignment to your organisation is so important, because ultimately what your leadership will want to see is impact. What is the impact? And why are we investing so much into this if the impact isn't there? Key documents, I probably preaching to the converted, but we know that building any program or expanding any program, embedding those key documents, whether it's simulation standards, whether it's operational documentation, whether it's system change and redirecting the way you do things. So we had a very dispersed model initially, and now we've centralized things like equipment buying. So I think key documents to support your program not only helps with the quality, but also it helps you in the future with things like obtaining accreditation and building reputation. These are in no particular order, because I think collaboration should be everywhere. Collaborate, collaborate, collaborate. Because when you're starting any program, even with the SUSIM programme that the leadership already had immense buy-in, we still needed to do a comprehensive needs assessment. We still needed to make sure that people were on board. So you move into a project management and a change management mindset, where how do we help support quite a large change in the way people are going to educate, and especially at a time when people are so busy. And then probably something that we don't do as well in HEIs anyway, versus the NHS, is collect data and really collect robust data to link it back to our programmes, which again aligns to impact. So I would say really work hard to collect your data, whether it's impact from things like open days, down to your evaluations and data around any opportunities, whether you could do them or not. And then last but not least, but again, it's all part of that cycle, is consistency, but adaptability. And I think the reality of how quickly you can build programs and how quickly you see quality impact can sometimes feel frustrating. That is part of sustainability that we're going to talk about in a little while. And even though you build your vision and mission very early, and you still keep that vision constant, the adaptability of your mission is key, else you can get really frustrated. I think you saw from my earlier pictures and now we're going to talk a bit more about the sustainability, the different levels of sustainability. But even though I'm, going to show you a video of a very, very nice centre, the most important thing is the people. You cannot do any of this without growing people, capacity, collaborating. They are your biggest asset, and the sustainability and the development of people like educators, STEM faculty, clinicians will help all of your programs to grow and, most importantly, be high quality. So how did we do it? Well, we moved into the building and then I started knocking down more walls. I'm not quite sure why I got so dressed up for that picture. Hard hat and rubble, and then I put a dress on, but hey ho. And in the interim, I hired a team. Often the teams have never worked in a sim centre before. We've got fabulous technicians, so we have 4 full-time technicians and an operations lead in our Singleton campus, and we have a technician in our Carmarthenshire campus. We have our education manager, and we also built a large interprofessional faculty. We have faculty champions in each of our areas. But at the same time, so we're doing this project management, we also started to build relationships with people like the health board. So even though we're building quite a large centre, you can see a lot of our faculty development in the top corner. For the first 2 years, we were doing it in a rugby club. So we had a huge amount of, there's lovely Liz Tooby from Howell Dar, and she was an injured rugby player on several occasions. She had lots of bee stings and she was demented a lot of the time. So she's a very talented lady. And we also started to, during the project and while we were building the infrastructure, we also started to work with some of our international partners. And in the middle of our project, we actually went over to Zambia because we were working with educators and developing teams out in Zambia, which is an amazing project. And students from Zambia are now working or doing programs with us at Swansea as well. So we start to build our teams, and then we opened our sim centre. So I just thought it'd be easier to show you a little video so you can see some of the flow of and images of SUSIM.
SUSIM, Swansea University Simulation Programme, is providing a wealth of opportunities to our students, health board partners, local communities, national and international businesses. It is a beacon for research and innovation with a growing portfolio of international collaborations. We have replicated our SUSSIM simulation suites within our St David's Park, Carmarthenshire campus, ensuring equitable simulation and immersive learning opportunities across our campuses using a one programme multiple sites approach. Our new simulation centres are connected through shared governance and our state-of-the-art simulation systems, expanding our abilities to deliver high-quality learning experiences, research, business and innovation across the sector. Our simulation process ensures all learners receive a comprehensive pre-brief prior to any simulation activity, enhancing environmental, physical and psychological safety. During the multitude of simulation education experiences, our learners will be supported by expertise from within our core simulation team, university academic staff and practicing healthcare professionals from neighbouring health boards. Normalising simulation within education programmes will ensure our future workforce and healthcare professionals are grounded in the key principles of high performance, safety and interprofessionalism, developing excellence in areas such as communication and learning from, with and about each other in all our wondrous variety. After each simulation session, the debrief explores the simulation scenario and gives users the opportunity to reflect on actions. This is an essential part of our simulation process, and our trained faculty will guide teams through healthy and transparent conversations in a safe learning environment. This enhances the transfer of learning into practice, embedding a culture of professionalism, transparency, communication and empathy.
I think just a little bit of a disclaimer there, that was an early video, not early marketing video. And what I love about the new videos, we opened in September 2023, so we haven't actually been open too long, but the latest videos that we've done, I've just gone, hi, welcome to SUSSIM, but the people speaking now in the videos are the faculty and the students, most importantly, the learners, the people that use the centre, because that's the most important thing, isn't it? That you get great buy-in and that people help to support your programme by demand. And so it looks like there's only one person in the centre at that point because I was showing people around, but some of the new videos that we're posting with on LinkedIn and some of our sites have the true heroes of the day. I think just very quickly, just to give you a bit of a range of the activities that we've developed since opening in September. So our primary focus, we align obviously our values, our missions to the university vision and mission, but we have a real focus currently on sim-based education for our core teams and for our health boards. We are also doing some work on system design, system improvement. And I've sort of put, I appreciate sim-based education can include gamification, but I've just sort of put gamification down because it's becoming a really highly requested piece. I suppose it should really fall under innovation rather than specifically gamification. And we also have started to use platforms that support all of these different modalities or different parts of what we're trying to achieve in SUSSIM. So Iris is a great example. We work very closely with Alex Clark and Phil to try and standardise the way that we're developing simulation scenarios, but not only standardise, but share. I think that's part of what we'll talk about in sustainability. And we're opening up to a number of opportunities. So whether it be with health, our health boards or health related topics, we're working, obviously, we're an academic centre, so we do things like research. We use our centre for our exams and our OSCEs and working with the GMC and NMC on improving those. We're working actually outside of healthcare now, so we've started to do a lot of projects with sports, industry and commercial opportunities, and very importantly, our charity and donor projects, just as a few examples of our current range. I'm sure many of you are doing similar projects. or parts of projects. We haven't really got time to talk in a huge amount of detail about the research and innovation part, but I think this is really important, and it's a great link for sustainability, because what grants have allowed us to do is to build content, build curriculum, innovate, and reduce costs when it comes to being able to sustain the technology that we have. So when I joined Swansea University, they did have VR, they had VR headsets, but we're struggling with licenses and content. And we were very fortunate that we started to be awarded grants to develop our own and we've started some fantastic research with masters and PhD students that are pushing the boundaries of how we can use this technology, and including, you know, things like AI, which is the new buzz, isn't it? So just for our conversation, I think our last slide really is understanding that whatever size your program, whatever you're trying to achieve, whether you've got a very large sim center and program, or whether you're just developing or running simulation in smaller pockets, we have consistently the same challenges, that it's those key priorities really balanced against the sustainability part. So for our core mission, for example, our absolute core mission is our students, things like research and our innovation and engagement. But for sustainability, we've also got to think about growing a reputation as a new centre, about expanding those collaborations, about working with commercial, so putting the business hat on when maybe you are leading a program and that's not your background. And most of us are clinicians and educators. We're not stemmed in a background of business. And then how do we balance the multitude of opportunities? Myself and Nick have just been to CSAM, and oh my goodness, the opportunities are incredible. Like, there's so many people we could partner with. Which ones do we choose, and which one will have the highest impact related back to our core mission? So I'm going to stop there. I've just popped up a little QR codes if anyone wants to learn a bit more about the SUSIM programme. This is our website, but we can share this as well with Nicola and the team. So I'll stop sharing.
We can pop this into the email recording that you'll get as well. So I mean, I've had the real pleasure of going to SUSIM to visit Joe and the team down there. And I can attest to what you see on screen. It's a truly amazing place that you guys are developing down there. I'm sure Joe won't mind if I say she doesn't mind a visit if you want to arrange. Not all jump in a bus all in one go to Swansea, but sort of collaborative approach that you were talking about there in growing sustainably. It's always great to go and visit other simulation centres, whether you're NHS or HEI, to go and see how you're working, how different places are working, and develop that way. So as you've been mentioning about sustainability, in today's episode is all about growing sustainability. Often that term into just environmentalism and just in growing sustainably in an environmental way. And obviously that's important. But what does sustainability mean to you in terms of how you're growing the simulation centre?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think you're right. I think it can have different meanings for different people. And even the environmental sustainability, we know as a university, we had sustainability goals. We've just done very well, actually, on the world rankings of sustainability goals. And we had to incorporate that and wanted to incorporate that even into our design. So there is that we do wear that cap of environmental sustainability, and also with our operations. You think about sustainability not only from a financial perspective, but also, can we reuse things? Can we be environmentally friendly? Do we have to have new packs open every time, etc., etc.? So there is that sort of a consciousness of environmental sustainability. I think most people, certainly in sort of when you're running and leading programs, will automatically think of, how do we keep this program going? How do we run this? Where is the funding coming from? And that will vary considerably depending where you work and what your funding streams are. I think there's different levels of sustainability. I'll talk about the financial ongoing sustainability side in a moment, but I think one of the challenges that I've had in every program I've started, no matter what the size, is the sustainability of expertise. So you put your heart and soul into the faculty development programs. We often write them, we often collaborate. Again, the Welsh program is fantastic because we run our own SUSEM faculty development, but we also have HNIW teams running All Wales faculty development. We've worked together on some of those, and it's, we're sort of sharing the same models, but we have multiple opportunities to do faculty development. And we've trained a lot of people to be our interprofessional champions. And then suddenly we've had changes recently, haven't we, where people are leaving, they're taking VERS, there's difficult financial situations. And even in the numbers that we've managed to sort of support through training since September, we've lost 50% already. So it's big numbers of expertise leaving. And sometimes, especially as people running those faculty development, your heart sinks because you think, oh God, I've got to start again. But with every challenge, there's opportunities, and now other people are stepping up. We've got people really enthusiastic, wanting the opportunities, wanting to learn more. So it's not necessarily a negative thing. It's hard work for the people that are championing it and trying to lead it. I think the
Support
other
that. Sorry, Jo, just to jump in. Do you support that from a process point of view? Because I imagine there's lots of simulation centres out there where there's probably one person that knows exactly how to do that one area of expertise that they have. And if they move on and go somewhere else, then you've suddenly got this big gap in knowledge. And that's what often happens with technology. You have one person who can use something and they go, and you don't have that person then to kind of take over that expertise and run with that project. Do you have anything in place to sort of help support?
Yeah, it's a great question. They call it the single point of failure, don't they? It's once you go, you think, oh no. I think that's absolutely imperative. I think you can do it on a number of levels. I think capacity is key. And part of the interprofessional champion, if you go onto the website, you can see the names that are people that are leading within their department. So we have occupational therapy, midwives, paramedics. There's a known sim champion, and it isn't that other people aren't sim champions, it's just they're coming, they're faculty within the faculty development programs. And the last couple of programs that we've run, especially the essentials of sim level, I didn't even go. I just went, oh, I'm not needed now. They just went for it. So yeah, I think that capacity building and making sure that, yes, you're supporting faculty, but you've also got to train the trainer model is absolutely essential. And then also embedding that micro learning. So are they able to come and observe extra sessions? Can you have mentorship among your groups? What's embedded in your operational processes? So we have things like videos. Scott Barnett and our technical team have got a fabulous website where they've got operation manuals, and faculty can go on site and sort of self-learn. It's empowering people to develop themselves so that there isn't that single point of failure. It's a great point.
Really like the idea about the videos. That's a great sustainable way to share that knowledge.
Absolutely. And I think, again, we don't reinvent the wheel. I popped on recently, and the industry videos, there's some fantastic industry videos, and we don't necessarily, create everything ourselves. I think one of the things we have to be very conscious of is that we create bilingual material, and that's something that we're very conscious of as well. So we ensure that we have the bilingual material. And then I suppose the other part that I'm really passionate about, and I know other speakers have spoken to you about this, is developing the next generation, which is our students. The work with student sim and the development of their own scenarios and equipping them to normalise simulation as part of their education, but also they will transfer that. They're the next generation. And I think if we can encourage that, it's very hard to do with the numbers, but we're certainly trying to give it a go.
That all sounds fantastic. So there's going to be people on the call from all different size simulation centres. Some centres may be looking at huge projects, redeveloping a whole simulation centre like you have. But even for smaller projects, what do you think are the key things that need to be considered in those early planning stages so that any growth or any change of direction you're trying to implement is sustainable and it will deliver that impact that you're looking for?
Yeah, gosh, that's a great but huge question, isn't it? And
Great.
no, but it's needed to be discussed because I think often we start simulation as either educators or clinicians with a passion, and we're just doing it ourselves, and we try and grow it and probably just completely burn ourselves out doing it that way. I think it goes back to that model that I showed, and first of all, being very clear, what is your key vision and mission? What is it that you're trying to achieve? What is your main focus? And who do you need to approach? Who actually are the influencers to help you be successful? Because it's a little bit like selling a mannequin, isn't it? You can understand the features. I know in the open days, often people talk about the eyes and the breathing. Brilliant. What are the benefits? And we have to be able to articulate to the people that we're trying to achieve buy-in. What are the benefits of this? And what is it really? Unfortunately, most people want to know what's in it for me. Like, what's the power of this? So I think creating that buy-in and really understanding, I would say if you've not done this before, don't take on too much too soon. Like, keep it realistic, because I often find, especially as I've had people come to me with ideas around projects, if you have already implemented a project but you have clear outcome data and you can demonstrate the impact, that is a good signal. It has a lot of power. So I think being really clear, and then understanding what is it that I'm trying to do and what are the key steps that I'll need. And that's why it goes back to perhaps reaching out to people and setting some clear expectations. Because if you overpromise and underdeliver, early on, you need to build trust with your leadership, stakeholders, people that you're communicating with and collaborating with. And it doesn't take much for them to be a bit skeptical. This won't work. We've got no money. We can't afford to do this. We have no time. They raise the objection, and you've almost got to answer that before it's raised. That's a typical sales, isn't it? Raise it before they raise it.
Find the solution as they raise
Yeah,
the problem to
exactly.
you.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
you said earlier on that Sue Sim in its current form in its new building has been open since 2023. So in that time you would have seen some of that data that you were talking about to be able to present to your various stakeholders. So how are you proving the impact?
Yeah, I think some of it was, I think there's a couple of things just earlier on when we were building the program. Don't, when you're actually looking for the budget side or you're calculating your budget, make sure you think about the first couple of years operations, because that will help get you through the first few years. So if you think about getting maybe a 3-year warranty instead of a 1-year warranty, if you can, if you're asking for budget, predict your operations. That's really key. I think from an impact perspective, again, it's multiple level. So we have to remember that it isn't just about bringing in commercial, the obvious. So I've got a large contract, I'm bringing in money. We've collected data on things like open days. Is this centre influencing people wanting to come to university? Because the competition is extremely high, and unfortunately our student numbers are dropping, especially for national students. So what's the impact the centre is having on increasing student numbers? What's the faculty data saying? Like, are we training faculty? Are they feeling comfortable with the methodology? And is that helping to not only train but retain, because it gives them the opportunity to innovate and grow and research? So I know some of our IPE sim champions have just got promotion because they've done such great work in simulation, or certainly that's one part of it. I often think the obvious evaluation is another great part, isn't it? Is your centre and programme affecting the measurable things that your leadership will be interested in, whether it's improvement with patient safety or an element in situ, or for us, is the NSS scores increasing? Are our students buzzing about simulation? So there's many sort of measurable impacts. And then obviously some of the impact is reputation. If people, I've spent been working with some business partners, some great people like Heidi Rawaldi and one of our professors, Professor Keith Lloyd. We're looking at the business arm, and we're really thinking, wow, how do we bring in some interest in the commercial side, whether that's health board or further afield industry and sport. And some of that impact is we're attracting commercial, but you have to build your reputation for that first, and it takes the expertise from the people. So it's a continuous balance.
This would be a good point to look at that more commercial side. And I know sometimes there's a slight clash between academia and commercial, that it might feel a bit like, oh, commercialism is not what we're here for. And you said earlier on, you're always remembering your core mission. But would you be able to talk to us about some of the exciting projects that are more commercial that you've been doing at SUSIM, which obviously help then to facilitate the core mission of healthcare simulation?
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes it can be a blurred line as well. It doesn't have to be that sort of core or commercial. I think a lot of the time we're just working together. We talked a lot about co-production, co-design in a lot of our conferences recently, and the majority of our projects currently are falling in the halfway house. So I think from your core mission perspective, I cannot stipulate strong enough about your operating model. To get your operating model for high volume sims correct will allow you the space and time to do the other projects. I think from a research perspective, that's our sort of halfway house, where we're trying to build grants for research, and that's helping us to work with industry and within our products. So for example, our VR platform, if you negotiate and have the right contracts, then we don't have to pay licenses. The content, we help deliver the content, and we have a sustainable model to maintain that VR platform content side. So that's another great way of working with industry. But from a commercial side, we've looked at a couple of different ways, or just diversifying, really, knowing the current climate. So a lot of the work we do is still closely related to healthcare and what we do so well. So training or doing work with people like security guards, de-escalation. Unfortunately, sometimes they're attacked in their job and they're injured, and how do we help to train them to cope with those early stages of that? And so we've been working with people like security guards. We've been working with other 999 services, or we're certainly in discussion with them. So we've just done a great project with the police service. We also think about sport and sports science. So we do have a fantastic sports science department in the university, but it's also leading to industries such as Boxing Wales. And we've been working closely with some groups that I can't talk about at the moment, but it's very exciting what we're doing in the arena of sport. And definitely in Wales, you've got to work with rugby, haven't you? So we've been doing work with things like concussion, and some of those projects are directly linked to also encouraging masters and PhD students and fellows with their projects. So when you think about sustainability and the people expertise, it's not that I'm doing all of this, far from it. It's those people that are leading it and innovating. I think from a commercial side, we're noticing that more and more people are looking at skill-based and apprenticeships, and how the versatility of our immersive walls, really we can replicate any space, anytime, anywhere. And we go out and do a lot of local filming. That's another part of the commercial arm that we offer. So we've got warehouses, architecture groups we've got different people that are now becoming interested in what we do. So lots of exciting opportunities, but then we have to think about how we operationalize that. So I think some of the ways we think about it is our financial model of how many of the core team would it take to run certain simulations. So when you're working with people like the health board, you might need some more tech support and some more faculty support maybe, where some of the industries that come in, as long as they've got things like the immersive walls, they're good to go. So that helps you decide whether the opportunities are viable within your current resources.
So it's all about planning it out and creating that. Because I also wanted to talk to you about another project that you're doing. So you've got your healthcare side, your commercial side, but you've also got a charitable side that you're working with as well.
Yeah, I think this is so important, and it's a real mission of the university as well, and just so important for our team. So we're sort of starting a program called Sim for Good, and some of the projects that we've worked on recently, obviously the Zambia project is close to our heart. We've hosted recently Dr. Dennis McQuaby, who does wonderful work in the Congo, and we had the ability to replicate the Pansy Hospital to really showcase the wonderful work that the teams do in Swansea actually, and in the Congo, because there's a shared governance with some professors here to help him train surgical skills. So we had the opportunity to host that event and really encourage donors to picture what it's genuinely like. We even had Dr. McQuaby doing a theatre case in our theatre, and some of his patients came up into the walls to explain their experiences. So very impactful work. We also work with local charities. So at Easter, we all put on our Easter bunny ears and had Action for Children over, and they were playing with the walls, doing a bit of gamification, trying to find the Easter eggs. So again, we try and give back, and we try and work with our charity and donor teams to really say, look, there's some good work we can do here. And there's growing interest for things like community projects. Even with some of our research projects, like the fantastic Maasai projects that we were working on, we've co-produced with communities like the deaf and hard of hearing community, and make sure they're heavily involved in some of the ongoing curriculum work that we do with Julia Terry, one of our professors. So yeah, we try and really think about how we can give back as well as work to sustain our programme.
All sounds really fantastic. We've got a little bit of time left just to go through a couple of questions that we've got, Jo, before we finish this session. So there's a question about, and this, I guess this might be in stages really, but how long did the process of developing SUSIM take?
Oh, that's a great question. So I worked as a consultant for around 6 months. So I started working on this key project because I was working with the midwifery team before in January 2021. And that included sort of needs assessment, drawing out the design, making recommendations on the design, thinking about the curriculum and the programme. So all of that took around 6 months from summer 2021 to September 2023. We hired architects, worked with the builders, did the project management, built the team. So we actually opened the centre within 2 years.
Everything that's gone in there, 2 years seems quite quick, and particularly at the end of COVID as well, it seems quite quick.
That was across 2 sites. So we had the main sim centre, and then in the March 2024, we opened the suites in Carmarthenshire. That's actually a listed building. So we worked with Carmarthenshire Council there. That was a little bit more complicated with the listed building. But I think that's, again, going back to the expertise piece, because I'd done this before and made the mistakes before. I could bring some of that and think, oh, I remember, let's not do that this time, let's try this. So that's probably where a little bit of expertise definitely came in handy. And a great team. It wasn't just about me. It was a great team and great experience from people like procurement. Oh my gosh, they are heroes, because trying to get everything procured in a tight timeline, finance, operations, all the people that work across estates, it isn't just one person. The faculty, the buy-in for the training and education, that is absolutely key. Like, work with your experts. You're really just project managing it and directing it, but bring on the right people for sure.
This next question probably applies to lots of people on the call, looking at the types of buildings that people are currently working with, but are there any particular challenges with needing to refurbish an existing building as opposed to being able to create a brand new building from scratch?
Yeah, there's definitely challenges depending the age and the state of the building. Obviously, there's advantages because a new build will take a lot longer and be a lot more expensive. So I have to say I was quite lucky in Susan because some of the core infrastructure was already there. And so, for example, all the sim bays that you'll see that we do our OSCEs in, and they're like clinics or hospital rooms, they're about 14 square meters, and they were all offices. So we kept them as the square footage and then just replaced them with our sim bays, we call them. So I think many challenges can arise if it's an old building with things like asbestos, or we found that in our initial budgeting, we then decided, as we did the analysis on sustainability, that we had to put in new windows and new AC systems and heating systems to make it sort of more environmentally friendly. And I think this is why you have to work with your estates team and make sure you factor that into the budget. But I think overall it can be a lot quicker to do these things if you get great architects and obviously contractors on board.
Thank you so much, Jo. Really thankful for you joining us for today's episode. It's such a great insight to see how you've developed SUSIM into how it is and what you're looking to do to build it to help it to grow sustainably going forward. So thank you so much for sharing all your insights today. I'm not sure if Ellie, my colleague, can pop your LinkedIn slate back up. I'll talk really slowly so she's got a chance to get it back up again. But if you'd like to connect with Jo on LinkedIn, I'm sure, Jo, you'd be happy to share some of your experiences and to point people in the right direction for things like funding and for some of the projects that Jo's doing, some exciting projects that she can't share widely yet. I'm sure you will in time, Jo, be able to do that. But some really great ideas for things that you can do with your simulation centre to help support the growth in a really sustainable way. So thank you everybody for attending today. It's great to see you all on the call. We've got one more episode of This Is Simulation to come in 2 weeks' time. We've got a fantastic episode with Lindsay McLeish from Swansea University, who's going to talk all about simulated placement learning and how she's implemented that with her undergraduate nursing programme. So it'd be great to see you for the final episode of this series in 2 weeks' time. We're hoping to do another series later on in the year. So, and applications are open at the moment for people who would like to take part in that series. If you've got a project you're working on or something that you're really interested in that you'd like to share with the wider simulation community, do get in contact with us, marketing@simmonsskills.com. We'd really love to have a chat with you and just like Jo, to get you on and share your expertise. So once again, thank you so much to Jo for joining us today. Really, really interesting, and I'm really pleased that you could join us. The recording will be getting sent to you either tomorrow or Friday, so you can look out for that in your inboxes. But once again, thank you everybody for joining us today, and we'll see you all soon.